Hello everyone, Jacob here. In today's lesson, we're going to be talking about this structure right here. Would have PP, would have past participle, if, and then a full sentence. And this is actually a bit of a difficult structure to use. So you're going to have to pay attention and probably practice it a lot after you watch this video. And in Korean, this structure basically means 뭐뭐 했었더라면 뭐뭐 했었을거야. All right? And we use this to talk about a possibility in the past. All right, so let's just review real quick before we start our lesson. Would, you're probably familiar with when you use it in this structure. Would, verb, if, and then subject, verb, object. This means 뭐뭐뭐 했으면, 뭐뭐뭐 했으면, 뭐뭐뭐 했을거야. All right. So it's actually quite similar, except would, verb, if, subject, verb, object. This structure here is actually used to talk about a possibility in the future, but this structure right here, would have PP, if, and then a full sentence, is to talk about a possibility or a conditional situation in the past. All right, so that's probably a little bit confusing, but don't worry, you will get used to it after we go through some examples. So let's look at our first example. Korea would have won. Korea would have won if Park Ji-sung had played. Korea would have won if Park Ji-sung had played. All right, so here we are using this structure, would have PP if 뭐뭐뭐. All right, so would have won if Park Ji-sung had played. And actually, in the second part of this sentence, it's very important to use had PP. So I'm actually going to put this verb here in yellow, just to kind of remember that this verb here should be a had PP tense. Okay. All right. So what does this mean? Korea would have won. Okay. This means they did not win. They lost or they tied. I don't know. If Park Ji-sung had played. So Park Ji-sung did not play. All right. And in Korean, this would translate to Park Ji-sung이 뛰었었더라면 한국이 이겼었을 거야. Okay. So that's what that means. And this is actually a very useful structure. It is used a lot because people do like to talk about possibilities in the past. Sometimes in this kind of situation, when you're just kind of thinking about, some kind of possible situation in the past, or often also to express a regret. So actually, let's look at our second example. I wouldn't have been hungry. I wouldn't have been hungry if I had eaten before. Okay, so let's say, imagine you're going to a movie and you forget to eat dinner before you go to the movie, and then during the movie, you are really, really hungry. Oh, and then you feel bad. You start regretting the fact that you did not eat before the movie. Well, you can say something like this. I wouldn't have been hungry if I had eaten before the movie. All right. So here again, we're using this structure would have, or in this case, it's negative. So if you want, you can just say wouldn't have PP if 뭐뭐뭐, and it's just a negative sentence. But the structure is still the same. What else? We are also using this with a adjective. Okay. So with an adjective, usually we will say would have been, or maybe another verb that you can use with adjectives, and then the adjective, if, and then this full sentence here, except again, remember that this verb, you want to use the had PP tense. Okay? So what does this mean in Korean? This would mean 이미 먹었었더라면 배고프지 않았었을 거야. All right, that's really hard for me to say in Korean still, even though I have practiced this a lot. So again, if you want to learn this structure, it's going to be kind of difficult and you're going to have to practice it a lot. But it is useful. I wouldn't have been hungry if I had eaten before the movie. All right, so let's move on to our last example. The business the business wouldn't have been a success. The business wouldn't have been a success if the employees hadn't worked hard. Okay, this is a little bit of a more complicated example because we actually have two negatives. It says the business wouldn't have been a success if the employees hadn't worked hard. And sometimes maybe if you put two negatives, it will sound a bit weird, but not always. Sometimes it's fine. Actually, in this case, it sounds fine. This is something maybe that like a boss would tell his employees if he was like thanking them in some kind of speech. He might say, the business wouldn't have been a success if the employees hadn't worked hard. Okay, so he's kind of thanking his employees here. And again, wouldn't have PP. In this case, actually we're using it with a noun. Wouldn't have been plus a noun if the employees hadn't worked hard. So again, we're using this had PP tense. All right, so yeah, I don't even want to try to translate this in Korean because it would be kind of difficult, so I'll leave that to you guys. Let's just look at one last kind of sentence, or it's actually more of a phrase that is actually just used a lot. People say this a lot. It's a good phrase, good kind of expression to memorize. So something that you can say a lot that actually uses this structure is that would have been awesome. That would have been awesome. That would have been awesome. Or that would have been nice. All right? And in Korean, what does this mean? This just means what? 좋았을 텐데. 그랬으면 좋았을 텐데. So just a really useful expression that can be used in a lot of different situations. For example, if someone tells you about something that they were going to do, but then they didn't do it, something really cool or something awesome that they were going to do, but they didn't do it, then you can say this, oh, that would have been awesome. It's too bad, that would have been awesome. All right, so this is just a good expression to kind of memorize and use in these kinds of situations. All right, so I hope you understood the lesson. Like I said, you're gonna have to practice this structure a lot if you really wanna be comfortable using it. So why don't you go ahead and get to work, start making your own sentences, try and use them when you're speaking. All right, I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.